going to see how this works. All right, so at our last video, we left off, and so like I've got all these different things. I got my old lady glasses, I got my book, got Shannon's mess in the background back there. She's not here right now, so I'm going to put on my old lady glasses for a minute so we can talk about the bottom of page 45, right? So that's what's hiding behind here. So if I click there, you can see it, where we were talking about the average daily inpatient census, and this being your first calculation or your first formula. So that's very exciting. At the bottom of page 45, this particular portion of the chapter is talking about how you are going to calculate the total number of days in the period. So you'll see that they gave you the little nursery rhyme so you can remember how many days there are in the months, is essentially. So unless you are someone that just has fun stuff like that committed to memory, you'll see right here where I have knuckles with a smiley face. That's reminding me that if I was standing in front of you to talk about knuckles. So we're going to do it today. So, you know, if you make a fist. So the one of the main things that happens with, wish we had Photoshop, right? But one of the main things that happens with these particular formulas that ask you for the number of days in the period or the number of service days, y'all aren't going to be able to waltz into the RHIT exam with a calendar. So you may be like, Heather, come on, I can look up the days of the month in the calendar. That's not going to be an issue, and I'll be able to do my homework. But P.S., guess what? When it comes down to your RHIT exam, you can't carry a calendar in, but you got a calendar. So what do I mean? Like, okay, let's look if I can get this up here. So you see my knuckles, right? I'm not trying to be threatening in any way, but I'm trying to show you how you have a calendar on your hand. So the knuckles represent months that have 31 days. The valleys represent 30, with the exception of February, right? Because we know February is strange. So if you take your little fist and you say January, February valley, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. I swear it works. So you may not actually, be taking proctored exams with us where I don't know that you're not looking up a calendar. But I am telling you that you won't have access to a calendar when it comes to the RHIT exam. And so beyond you memorizing the months and the days in the month, I mean, like, that's the easiest thing. That's going to be the easiest thing for you to carry into the test with you, because if you do your homework and you take your exams with all the information out in front of you, that's going to be an aid, and it's going to be like you would be at work. But I'm worried about that exam, which I know you're worried too. So remember that, knuckles, we're going to do it one more time. 30 except for February because it's weird, right? So January, February, March 31, April 30, May 31, because we're back at a knuckle. Wait a minute, I don't see that good. June 30, July 31, August 31, September 30, October 31, easy Halloween, right? November 30, December 31, easy New Year's Eve. Okay, so you've got a calendar right here. And you may have known about that already. You may already have a good way to know that too, but just in case you don't, now you learn something new. Now, I'm going to get off because, old ladies. And let's get back. How do I make myself disappear? Bye. Okay, there we go. All right, so that's the knuckles, and that's going to help you reach the total number of days in the period. So when you're working out these calculations, you don't have any kind of issues with the number of days in the period, and that's all cool. All right, so let's flip the page, and I'm on page 46, but I'm seeing two tip boxes on page 46 that I definitely want you to make sure you're looking at too. At the bottom of the page, you get into average daily newborn census, which looks a lot like this one, y'all, right? Except it's for our sweet little newborns only. Total newborn inpatient service days for a period. total number of days in the period. So once we get to working on some calculations, that will certainly make a little more sense, but just breaking down the formulas, they're very similar, except one is for inpatients, or your adults and children, and the other one is for newborns. And so remember what I've said. Follow the formula. You want the total number of inpatient service days over the total number of days in the period. It's honestly that easy. Okie dokie. So on page 47, you've got another little tip box, right? So that tip is just reminding you that whenever you land your first job, and if you happen to be working on these types of calculations, you're just going to confirm with administration whether or not you're going to include newborns. But just know that the industry standard is not to include newborns, so I don't want you to be confused about that. Middle of page 47 gets into average daily inpatient census for a patient care unit. So in addition to the total adults and children and the newborns, you can also calculate for a patient care unit. And so it would be specific, and you would be given that information, and you would be asked to calculate it. So it's inpatient service days for the unit, for the period, over total number of days in the period. So very similar. Another pitfall sometimes I think students make is they try to memorize these formulas. I want you to have Appendix A, and we'll talk about that too, but Appendix A in this textbook has all the formulas out in a nice, concise area, that if you're asked to calculate something, it's in there under alphabetical order, and it saves you time in working through your problems. So that is going to be of great help to you, and so there's no need to try to memorize formulas right now or try to remember what goes in a formula. If you just follow your formulas, you're going to be great. Let's see here. So your chapter continues on page 47 and talks about, sorry, I'm going to scroll back for just a second. Under this example, there's a tip box. That tip box says, do not confuse terms regarding the census and inpatient service days. So I want you to read through that. And it, again, for like the 4th or 5th time, goes over what an admission and discharge is and how that's different than the head and the bed census. Table 3.4 at the bottom of page 47 is just a written out version of all of the census calculations in the chapter. I'm not asking you to do anything with that. I'm just pointing it out that it's written that way. Then finally we get to page 48, right? So page 48 gets you to the end of the chapter, but you have a little tip up at the top, and it talks about leap years. And so all of your DCCC assignments, anything that I give you as far as a test or your homework, worksheets that I have posted that you put your answers in, and your quizzes, and all that kind of good stuff, you will be told when it's a leap year. So don't worry about trying to memorize when leap years are. But there's a tip that talks about, if you're not familiar with what a leap year is, it gives you a good definition and just reminds you that with a leap year, that February has 29 days versus 28. And so instead of using 365 days on leap years as a total number of days in the year, you would use 366. So then they give you another little tip. Leap years only occur on an even numbered year. So if the example is an odd year, you won't even need to think of it as a leap year. But I will always provide you as to whether or not it's a leap year. So I don't want you trying to Google it and figure out whether it's a leap year. If I don't indicate it's a leap year, even if you think it's a leap year, treat it as a regular year. So I hope that makes sense. Then we are at the end of the chapter. So what you can expect is that I'm expecting that you're going to work the exercises at the end of the chapter. The next thing that I'm going to post for you will be some videos on how I work the problems out. So the college has got a couple of different ways for me to do that. And then there's my old handheld iPhone video recording as well. So it just kind of depends. I'm going to play around with it over the next day or so and figure out what works best. But that's the next thing that you'll see posted, is how to calculate some of these so that it's a little helpful for you when you're trying to work through your worksheets. I hope you have a great day. Thanks.